Chapter 250. The Barbarian King charged forward, swinging a mace directly at the divine tree, causing a massive shockwave. However, the tree's body this time seemed impervious, not tearing apart as it had before. Without dwelling on it, the Barbarian King closed the distance in an instant, delivering a left hook. The divine tree blocked with its right hand. The Barbarian King's punch, wrapped in a vibrant red spiritual energy, was undoubtedly powerful. But when it struck the tree's body, it only produced sparks, as if hitting a block of metal. The divine tree mused that this man was indeed extraordinarily strong, possibly the strongest human he had ever encountered. The Barbarian King continued his relentless assault, utilizing both his spiked mace and his fists and feet, delivering blow after blow with full force. His combat style was primal, embodying the purest essence of martial arts. Despite acknowledging the enemy's strength, the divine tree's sturdy roots maintained its defense effortlessly. The Barbarian King, absorbed in his attacks, eventually left an opening. The divine tree seized the opportunity, thrusting a root into his stomach, sending him flying back like a cannonball into the tree's other side. Yet, the Barbarian King quickly regained his footing, gripping his large mace, and charged once more. This time, he summoned his unique spiritual energy, creating a pale pink pillar of light that he launched at the divine tree. This move, called the critical strike, forced the divine tree to cross its arms in an X shape to defend. The attack left a deep wound on the tree's arms and even scratched the bark on its back, an impressive feat for a ranged attack. The divine tree was amazed that the Barbarian King could use his physical strength to generate such powerful gusts of wind. Meanwhile, the Barbarian King shouted, "It's not over yet." He continued to unleash similar attacks, intending to strip the divine tree of its bark. Surprisingly, the divine tree didn't bother to dodge or block these critical strikes, spreading its arms wide to receive them. The air around was scorched by the force of the Barbarian King's blows, creating a bright, blazing scene. The divine tree thought that at this level of damage, it wasn't worth the effort to evade or defend. Seeing this arrogance, the Barbarian King gritted his teeth in anger. Before he could even curse, the divine tree launched a punch powerful enough to shatter a mountain. The Barbarian King barely managed to raise his arms in defense as his body was thrown back. The impact was indeed terrifying, causing the Barbarian King to cough up blood. He quickly grabbed the divine tree's arm, while his other hand summoned his spiked mace, which transformed into a monstrous beast with a huge mouth. The mace descended, aiming to devour the divine tree. However, with a swift flick of its hand, the divine tree shattered the once proud mace into pieces and followed up with a mighty kick. The kick sent the Barbarian King flying several hundred meters away. The divine tree felt nostalgic, as it had been a long time since it used these combat skills. It clenched its fist, sensing that its limbs were not as nimble as they used to be. The Barbarian King struggled to stand, gasping for breath. The recent kick not only left him dizzy but also made breathing difficult. However, the pain and fear receptors in his tribe were almost non-existent, so he wouldn't flee. The divine tree calmly said, "You should realize the difference between us. Why do you persist in this futile effort?" But the Barbarian King had no intention of changing his approach. He stood tall, holding the broken handle of his mace, and after a few breaths, declared, "I'm honored to fight someone as powerful as you. I have no regrets, even if I die." It was clear these were sincere words, reflecting a pure martial spirit. The divine tree, hearing this, had to praise him. No one before had fought the divine tree without retreating, at least if they survived the encounter. Most didn't dare approach at all. The divine tree declared that he held the Barbarian King in high regard. Therefore, the divine tree decided not to prolong the battle, as it might truly lead to the Barbarian King's death. Instead, he would show him his true power. The space around them began to tremble, causing the Barbarian King to become extremely vigilant. Then, the divine tree transformed into a werewolf-like form with green hair. Immediately, an immense spiritual energy burst forth, enveloping the area and causing everything to shudder. The divine tree let out a terrifying roar, sending shockwaves through the air that created stormy winds in all directions. In an instant, roots wrapped tightly around the Barbarian King, rendering him completely immobile. He couldn't even think of escaping. All he could do was focus on fortifying his skin to withstand the crushing force, or else he'd be shattered into pieces. It was only now that the Barbarian King understood what limitless spiritual energy like the ocean meant. This was the true power of the mutated tree. Damn it! So the tree had been toying with him all along. The divine tree looked down at the small creature in its grasp, now turning pale, and said, "Now do you understand what you are in my eyes?" Then it told him to be quiet, as the divine tree would be busy cleaning up the battlefield. Of course, the Barbarian King couldn't respond in his current state, as he struggled against the crushing roots. The divine tree's remaining roots shot out, quickly spreading across the vast battlefield. The mutated beasts of Africa were suddenly lifted into the air, one by one. Don't question how the divine tree had so many roots. Thanks to his max-level root manipulation ability, one root could capture hundreds of mutated beasts. The battlefield was filled with the sound of desperate cries and the creaking of roots. A while later, silence fell completely. At the central cathedral of Europe, monks watched Uzu in horror through a screen. The archbishop wondered if that could be the mutated tree. Could it have traveled from Australia to Africa in just a few days? This seemed too illogical. Fear was evident in his eyes, but he understood that if it had defeated the Dark King, then this level of power was not impossible. It was just too overwhelming. Meanwhile, at the 10 Nations Alliance, the saint was sweating, feeling the mutated tree's power even from where he stood. The moment the divine tree unleashed its spiritual energy, he realized that while he knew the mutated tree was strong, he didn't expect it to be this terrifying. The massive divine tree stood under the moonlight, while the Barbarian King was firmly captured. A few minutes later, thousands of African mutated beasts were all kneeling, without a sound. Cheesy realized that everything in the area had submitted under the overwhelming might of his master. Perhaps at the moment the divine tree unleashed its spiritual energy, it was the most terrifying experience of their lives. It wasn't surprising. Even Cheesy felt that his master was becoming more and more fearsome. The divine tree asked the Barbarian King if he still wanted to challenge him. Damn it, the Barbarian King still gritted his teeth, with his eyes glowing red like blood. The divine tree, like a father advising his wayward son, told him not to continue this futile struggle because it wasn't good for his health. What will the Barbarian King say? We'll find out in the next chapter. End of chapter 250.